You've heard of the 300% rule. I have the 500% rule. And so the 300% rule is whatever you find gets estimated and gets presented. Every car gets inspected, everything we find gets estimated, and everything we estimate gets presented. 300% rule. My understanding. I have a 500% rule. And my 500% rule is this. Um, every car gets a ticket. I've walked into many shops where if we're doing something simple, or let's say the technician is going to go out, or the owner or the service advisor is going to go out and plug in the scanner, we're not going to write a ticket on it. In my very own shops I've managed, when I started, they weren't writing a ticket on every vehicle. So if they went into the driveway and they put a light bulb in and it was easy, they didn't write a ticket on that. The problem with not writing a ticket on every car is that you don't have a history of what's happened. So in my own experience, we put a left taillight bulb in a car for a customer, no charge. A customer left 3 weeks later. They said, "Hey, that taillight bulb you put in, it didn't last. I've still got a light out." And when you went and looked, we had put the left taillight in, but it was the right taillight now that was out, which kind of makes us look bad if the customer thinks what we just did didn't work. But also, I think if it's very clear and there's a ticket written, I know what happened. So if I'm not there, someone else is there. They're looking, they know what we did, and there's no question. So my first 100% is every car gets a ticket written. My second 100% is every car gets test driven. So if it's not possible to test drive it because a certain percentage of our cars come in on a tow truck and we haven't test driven them, and there's a whole nother piece here that we would talk to salespeople about building, letting the customer know, hey, we haven't driven the car yet. And once we get it running, we're going to need to drive it and make sure everything's operating properly. We can't tell you about that now. But I'm going to test drive every car that I can. Now, it's not a long test drive necessarily. I think our test drive was about 1.2 miles, left turn, right turn, 35 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, over a couple of bumps. While we're test driving the car, we're looking at how it runs, how it shifts. We're checking the inside vent temp if we've got the air conditioning on. We're making sure the heater works properly if we have the heater on. We're listening for noises. We're seeing how the car handles turns. We're working the windshield washer and wiper, making sure all of that works. And I can do that in a very short time as part of my inspection. So 200%, the second 100% is every car gets test driven. And by the way, if I fix whatever made the car not start and get it towed in, once I've done that, that vehicle also gets test driven. Now we get into the inspection. Every car gets inspected. In my shop, personally, we had a rule that if the car had had a comprehensive inspection within 30 days, we didn't have to do the inspection. But at 31 days, we did the inspection. And again, I don't want to argue. I've heard reasoning from people that even if it's been 5 days, the car should probably be inspected because we don't know how you drove it, where you drove it, what might have happened. So whatever you have, you put a rule in place that says, under this circumstance, this is the only one circumstance that you don't have to inspect the vehicle. And if you ask me, one of the biggest problems we have right now with sales and profits in most shops is that the car's not getting a good comprehensive inspection. And that would be a good DVI. So every car gets inspected. That's 300%. Now, everything that the technician finds gets on the estimate. So everything is estimated. And I hate the fact that we have a lot of yellow, like, wiper blades are yellow. Well, they're, in my opinion, if the wiper blades are streaking or not cleaning correctly, then they're bad, right? It's not like, okay, well, I'll let you go and maybe next time you come in, we'll do wiper blades. So on my estimates, if I'm doing it, very little yellow. It's usually either red or green. It's either good or it's bad. And if it's on the estimate, I don't want a service advisor making a decision not to put it on the, not to estimate it if it's on the inspection. Because if the technician found it, and we've taught our technicians how to do a good DVI, a good inspection on the vehicle, then we should be estimating the work. And I would tell you that I would do a work order quality control weekly where I pulled 10, 12 work orders and I looked at the inspection and I looked at what got estimated and made sure everything was estimated. And I also don't want a service advisor making a decision that, well, that's not that important, and doing that decision based on the fact that, uh, I don't really want to try to sell this guy $1,000 worth of stuff. I'd rather try to sell him 700 because I think he'll buy 700. So everything from the inspection gets estimated, and everything from the estimate gets presented to the customer. And I don't want to necessarily make a huge effort to sell everything. I'm going to probably if it's me, but there are likely to be some items that are on the estimate that are not as important as some others. And so putting the estimate in the correct order so that you can increase your sales, which will be our next tip, or at least mine, um, is important. But I want to make sure that everything that we did got estimated and everything that's estimated is actually presented to the customer. And I always say telling is not selling. If it's not that important, if it doesn't have to be done today, and a customer asks me, I'm probably going to say, no, you don't actually have to do that today. It's probably not the end of the world if you don't. However, it's on the list for a reason because that is something that either needs to be maintained or can cause damage somewhere else. So if I could, I would do it today if I could fit it into my budget. If not, we can move it out a couple of months or a month, and then I would set the date on that with them and make another appointment. So everything gets estimated 500%. Number one, everything written up. Every car gets a ticket. Number two, every car gets a test drive. Number three, every car gets a good digital vehicle inspection, a good inspection. Number four, everything we find gets estimated. And number five, everything that's estimated gets presented. And last but not least, if I didn't sell it, I want it written on the ticket somewhere that we recommended it, but the customer didn't buy it. I don't want any item that we estimated that we presented that doesn't get written somewhere on the ticket if we did not sell it, because when the customer comes back with a broken part or something wrong, and I recommended it last time, if it's not written down, I have no legs to stand on.